Imagine carrying a genetic story so ancient, it could trace the very roots of humanity. It sounds like something out of an epic, right? But that's the story emerging from, well, recent research into the genetic makeup of populations in Angola. And the insights, they're turning out to be pretty significant, mind-blowing even.
Yeah, absolutely. And our mission today for you is really to explore why. Why is Angola's genetic data so unique, so important? We'll be looking at what researchers, scientists and historians have been uncovering through loads of studies and fieldwork. It's quite the culmination.
Okay, before we dive deep, I read something really striking. It was a 2021 study, I think. It said over 10% of modern-day African Americans carry genomic segments, bits of DNA, traceable back to Angolan ancestors. Can you maybe elaborate on why that specific number is so profound?
Right. That single fact, it really hits home how foundational Angola's gene pool is. It's not just some historical detail. It's like a living thread in the identity of many African Americans today. It directly shaped the genetic legacy of the diaspora because of the transatlantic slave trade. That alone tells you how important this region is historically and genetically.
Okay, so to really get why Angola's genes are so special, we need to go way back. Our first point is this idea of ancient DNA diversity. Can you set the scene for us?
For sure. So modern humans, we emerged in Africa over 200,000 years ago. The exact where is still debated, But a growing number of studies are suggesting southwestern Angola and nearby areas might have been part of an early genetic hub.
A genetic hub, what does that mean exactly?
It means these regions might have hosted really ancient human lineages, some that aren't common elsewhere. We're talking about mitochondrial DNA haplogroups that's passed down the maternal line, like L0 and L1. These are among the oldest known human lineages. So Angola could literally hold some of the earliest keys to our shared human genetic story. Pretty amazing.
Wow, okay. So potentially a cradle for some really ancient diversity. But it's not just about origins, is it? The story also involves movement, big movements. This brings us to the second reason, Angola as a migration powerhouse. Here's where it gets really interesting, I think.
Oh, definitely. Angola was absolutely central to the Bantu migrations. This was this massive continent-spanning movement of people, languages, culture. It reshaped like half of Africa over thousands of years.
Reshaped half the continent from Angola.
Well, Angola appears as a key starting point, or at least a major crossroads, in genetic maps tracking this spread. It influenced populations all across Central, East, and Southern Africa. Someone used the analogy, it's like Angola was the genetic equivalent of a Wi-Fi router, broadcasting diversity in all directions.
I like that. A genetic Wi-Fi router. Is there data to back that up?
There is. Quite a bit, actually. More than 70% of Bantu-related genetic samples in some recent big population studies, they trace back to southwestern Angola. So it wasn't just a place people were. It was a dynamic center, a source. It essentially seeded diversity across huge parts of the continent. It really makes you rethink how populations spread.
That paints such a vivid picture, a vital genetic crossroads. So beyond the ancient roots and this huge migratory impact, there's also something about health, right? Our third unique aspect, health-related alleles and resistance genes. What have we learned there?
Right. This is fascinating, too. And it has direct real-world implications. For example, in Angolan populations, there's a higher frequency of the Duffy-negative blood group.
Duffy-negative. What's the significance of that?
It gives natural resistance to certain types of malaria. And in tropical regions like Angola, where malaria has been a major threat for, well, millennia, that's a huge evolutionary advantage.
Ah, okay. So direct natural selection pressure.
Exactly. And it's not just malaria resistance. We also see specific gene variants, alleles linked to things like lactose intolerance or sensitivity to salt. Even how populations metabolize certain drugs can differ. These all reflect unique evolutionary journeys, adaptations to specific local environments written into the genes.
Remarkable. Just shows how environment shapes us right down to the genetic level. But this unique genetic heritage, it leads us into some difficult territory now, doesn't it? Let's talk bioethics. This is our controversy corner.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean when researchers go looking for this data?
Yeah, this is where things get complex and, frankly, quite sensitive. A lot of this genetic sampling happens in remote rural communities in Angola, and often it's researchers from Western institutions doing the collecting.
Okay. And the problem there is?
Well, criticism arises around informed consent. Is it truly informed? Do people fully understand what their genetic data might be used for? And then there's benefit sharing. Are the communities who provide this incredibly valuable genetic information seeing any direct benefits? Critics call it a form of modern biocolonialism.
Biocolonialism, that's a strong term.
It is. The argument is that the global north, wealthier nations, might be extracting biological resources, in this case, genetic data from the global south, potentially profiting from it scientifically or commercially without fair partnership or return of benefits.
Right. And you mentioned commercial profit. What about industries like pharmaceuticals? Are they interested?
Oh, absolutely. The pharmaceutical industry is definitely interested. Why wouldn't they be? Angola's unique gene pool, especially those adaptations we talked about, malaria resistance, maybe hypertension factors, neurological conditions, these could hold clues for developing brand new drugs, potentially worth billions.
So the big question that arises from this is,
Who profits? If a blockbuster drug is developed based on insights from Angolan genetic data, who gets the rewards? Does any of it flow back to the communities, the country, whose genetic heritage was the key? That's the crux of the ethical debate.
and just to really hammer home how significant this resource is, both historically and scientifically, there are some stark numbers, aren't there?
Yes, it puts the ethics into sharp focus. Think about this. The transatlantic slave trade database records show over 4.6 million enslaved Africans brought to the Americas came from the region encompassing Angola. That's a staggering number, a massive direct link between this specific gene pool and the African diaspora.
4.6 million. And scientifically.
Scientifically, recent studies, like one in Nature back in 2021, identified over 24 unique genetic lineages in Angola. Lineages not commonly found elsewhere in Africa. It just underscores this incredible, unique genetic richness, which makes the ethical questions about who studies it, who uses it, and who benefits even more critical.
So we've covered a lot today. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? From the deep human past, these ancient origins, Angola's role as this migration powerhouse, through to specific health adaptations, and now landing on these really tough, modern ethical questions. The Angola gene is kind of this dual story.
It really is. It's an ancient story of humanity, but also a very current ethical flashpoint. And it leaves us, and you listening, with a really fundamental question to ponder, I think. Do genes define who we are? Are they the whole story? Or are they just, one chapter in a much, much larger narrative of culture, history, and individual experience?
That's definitely something to think about. And perhaps that leads you, our listener, to another thought. Should studying a population's genes come with some form of economic rights or recognition for the source country or community? Lots to reflect on. We hope this deep dive gave you some valuable insights. Thank you for joining us.